Gentlemen, and today we are joined by Heidi Katrina. How are you doing today, Heidi Katrina?
Sorry, my reception's really bad. Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Hiya, you alright?
Yeah. How's your day been today?
Yeah, it's been busy, hasn't it, really? I've been non-stop as always.
So, for those, because we don't we don't have many pro wrestlers on the channel, so why don't you just explain to the people a bit about your career, like what countries you've been to and things like that?
Yeah, sure. So I've been wrestling for about 8.5, almost 9 years. Half of my career was spent in Japan. I started wrestling in Britain. Was trained by a British wrestler called Robbie Brookside, and then I also attended the London School of Lucha Libre for a little while. So I was there for a couple of years, and then I was able to advance to outside of England, and yeah, from that moment on, really.
Or you, I would imagine you're pretty fluent in Japanese by this point.
Well, I wouldn't say 100% fluent, but I know about 40% Japanese that I've just kind of taught myself while I was over there, really. I'd like to learn a lot more. At the moment, I'm studying reading and writing, so I want to perfect my Japanese.
So, so do you know when you first started your career, I, I, I heard that you had to travel, like 9 hours every time.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I've always really just travelled to wherever the wrestling is, and it just so happened that Robbie Brookside's school, and also I went up to Marty Jones's school a couple of times. So the commute to Robbie's on the Sunday was about 10 hours in total. So I'd jump on the coach, and I'd be getting up really early on a Sunday morning, like about 6 o'clock a.m. And that was my life for quite a while, actually. Yeah.
That's very commendable because
Oh.
it's especially in today's society, I can't imagine many people doing that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, do you know what it is? I just have this like passion and drive, and when I want to go and do something, there's nothing that can stop me, really.
Uh, yeah, that's the best way to be in life, really, isn't it?
Mhm. Totally.
So, do you, do you know you went to Japan for the first time? Did you have any preconceived notions of the actual country itself, or were you very open-minded?
Well, actually, I've always been a big fan of Japan. Like, I love the culture, I love the video games, I love the style, the fashion, just everything really, the food. So when I had the opportunity to come to Japan, I was invited to Japan to do my favorite sport, so my profession. It was just like a dream come true, really. And when I went over there the first time, I was just flabbergasted, really. Everything was just incredible, like much more whimsical than I ever imagined, really. So I was I was very speechless my first tour.
Do you, do you know your first match in Japan? Did you, 'cause obviously it's a different environment and a different
Yeah.
culture. So, were you like overly nervous or were you like confident?
Actually, my first ever match, I was just so excited and just running off adrenaline and like so pumped to debut in Tokyo finally. Like it's every pro wrestler's dream, isn't it? So I was kind of, I guess there was a little bit of deep down, a little bit of nervousness, but that was just overshadowed by excitement. Really, I was just like, yeah, let's do this. I was so excited.
So, I assume you had a couple matches in England before you went over there. So What were they like? Were they just awful, or were they decent, or were they quite good considering your level of experience?
To be honest with you, Anthony, actually, the last match I had before I left for Japan was against Gail Kim in France, actually, for the ABC Catch Women's Championship, where I wrestled Gail Kim in this Coliseum in the south of France, and then I was due to go to Japan the next couple of days after. So that was my last ever match in England. Well, okay, not now, but before I left for Japan, it was. So that I went off with quite a steam in my step, so to speak. You know, I was quite buzzing from that match because obviously I'm a big fan of Gail Kim's, naturally.
What year was this, if you don't mind me asking?
Hmm.
Are you still there, yeah?
Hello.
Yeah, did you hear what I said, or did we cut out?
It cut out actually.
I said, when, when was this, like, what year was this?
Oh, okay. So possibly I'm gonna say 2016. Yeah, or 2000 late. Yeah, 2016. I believe so. The right in the summer.
I believe at that time, Gaelkin was, I believe at that time Gaelkin was one of the best in the world, so he had a good opponent there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you're too familiar with Gail Kim's work, but she's always been a tremendous worker. So that was very very fun to catch her because I know she's pretty much retiring pretty soon. So I was glad to have that opportunity to face her in France, and she's an absolutely lovely woman. So it was just a great day. I was really pumped for my for my match in Tokyo coming up as well. So I couldn't have picked a more ideal matchup just before I left, really.
Yeah, I believe she's like a producer for Impact now, so yeah, so she's probably, I would imagine, she's probably one of the best people to learn from when it comes to the female side of pro wrestling. Well, to be honest, pro wrestling as a whole, I believe she was one of the first ever women, not, so, so, because obviously Gail Kim's legend, so, did, so do you know going into that match, we, did you have, did you have any anxiety, or anything like that, or did,
Uh, well, naturally, before you usually wrestle someone who's well established, obviously you do feel a little bit like, oh, I want to make sure I'm the best, or how do I learn from this person, or I hope, they think this, they think that. But at the end of the day, you just have to be very diplomatic and learn from your seniors and learn from your, we call them senpais in Japan. So, I wouldn't say I was nervous, but I was excited and I was optimistic to whatever Gail, um, the direction Gail kind of was thinking, and also I've seen a lot of her work and I've seen a lot of her matches, so I've seen what kind of moves she does, so we were able to, yeah, just create some organic wrestling on the day. So yeah, I was very excited. I guess I do get nervous maybe sometimes, but not so much. It's more like I channel that to excitement.
yeah, and obviously I assume Gail Kim was a good leader for you in that match at the time.
Yeah, and she really is, and she's such a lovely person too. She just wants to help everybody, and I was just very very lucky to get that before my trip to Japan. So yeah.
I personally believe that she doesn't get the credit she deserves.
Yeah, I agree. I think she's she deserves even more credit for what she's done for women's wrestling and also wrestling as a whole, really.
But unfortunately, if you don't do it in WWE, sometimes you don't get the credit that you deserve. And obviously, it shouldn't be like that. But unfortunately, so some people, that's the way they look at it. That's the way they look at it.
Yeah, quite possibly, actually.
So up until that point, was that the highest caliber of opponent that you had up until that point?
Um, Back in, yeah, I guess back in 2016, yeah, I wrestled, I guess you would call them names, I guess. That's what a lot of people refer it to. I've wrestled a lot of legends, so to speak, since then and before then. So, but Gail Kim was one of the biggest matches for me coming up, We're talking like half my career ago now. So that was I still had a lot to learn, and you've always got room to learn, and you can never stop learning in this business. I'm sure you're aware of that.
Yeah, it's not only in wrestling, but also in life. You can never stop learning, like no matter what you do.
Yeah. Mhm.
So, so going back to when you first started training,
Mhm.
in hindsight, is there any funny story that you did, like what you did at the time when you look? Hang on, let me explain myself better. 'Cause, so basically, what I'm trying to say is, when you were training, and obviously you're gonna make stupid little mistakes.
Yeah.
Do you,
Yeah. What would I do differently? You mean?
no, what I was gonna say was, do you look back on them days now and actually find some humour, humour in them? Because obviously you've learnt a lot since then. So do you find any humour, like ironic humour?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I would tell the debut version of Heidi and the training version of Heidi to wear elbow pads and respect her elbows, because when I was first, training, learning, and everything else, I was like, yeah, this is really fun. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It hurts, but it's all right. And I don't mind just smashing my elbows up, because I come from a sporty background anyway, and a martial arts background, so I didn't mind getting bashed about. But now, having a couple years down, 8 years down, my elbows are killing me. So, and they're bashed up, so I would have told the younger Heidi to make sure she wears elbow pads and knee pads at all times.
So what other what other sport did you do before you started training then?
When I was in school, I was very good at athletics. I was in the athletics team, and I was very much interested in powerlifting, things like that. And then I'd done karate and a little bit of mixed martial arts growing up. And yeah, I just love that combat sport, and I love anything involving heavy lifting or things like that. Really.
Have you have you ever wanted to do like an MMA fight just to see what you can do? Or has that time come and gone for you where you're interested in that sort of thing?
I'm very much interested in MMA and Muay Thai, but it's kind of and karate as well still. But it's more like pleasure now. So I do it like sometimes on the side. Um, but I was training at one point, and the only thing that kind of put me off doing competitions was just, to be quite frank and honest with you, Anthony, it's because of the injuries to the face and the head. Obviously, as a pro wrestler, our aesthetics are very important. Our physical appearance is very important. So I didn't really want to get bashed around and in the face, or I probably wouldn't get bashed around, but just worst case scenario, I wouldn't be able to do both of those things together, pro wrestling and MMA at the same time. I'm sure you're aware. they're not particularly great to do at the same time. So I had to kind of realise at one point which one are you going to do, Heidi? Like pursue, and it was a no brainer for me from the get go with pro wrestling. So
Oh,
hopefully that makes sense.
yeah, that makes sense. What I was trying to say was, do you think you would ever go? Well, obviously not. But what I originally meant, do you think you were going to retirement with pro wrestling and then just focus on MMA? But obviously not, considering what you just said.
No, I wouldn't be doing MMA. I do it purely for fun, and I love fighting and grappling for fun, really. Like I train, I've got a couple dojos I train in around here and in Japan. When I go over there for wrestling, I also get to train and do MMA too, and in America as well. But it's more like a hobby, on the side, just because I like fighting an awful lot. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I would imagine in Japan the training's very similar. Because obviously in Japan it's more like shoot style, so to speak. If you know what I mean.
Mhm. Totally.
So, do you know you training in Japan and training in America, and basically what I'm trying to say is, between the different countries, is it how how different is the actual training like for you personally?
It's literally like night and day. They're so different. Chalk and cheese. So in Japan, excuse me, in Japan we would train at the dojo. Obviously, when I was with DDT, we'd train in Tokyo, and when I was with Sendai girls, I would obviously train up in the mountains of Sendai with the Sendai girls and Satomura-san. And one of our exercises, you're not going to believe this. So there was a big, steep set of steps going up to a temple at the top of the mountain. And I'm talking, there must have been about 200 steps up to the top, very steep. So what we would do was we would firemen carry each other up the steps, all the way to the top and all the way down. So basically, if you drop someone, they die. So that was the extreme training that we went through in Japan for Sendai girls. And I tell you what, it was just absolutely incredible. Followed by like 3 hours of dojo training every day in between our shows, and just the most awesome experience. Yeah, I love training in Japan.
So
America was America very much obviously traditional pro wrestling style, just training in a training school with great veterans that could teach you a lot of stuff. Yeah, if that makes sense.
do you know their training style in Japan? Do you think that it could be adopted by America and even England to a certain extent?
I'd say Japan has its own thing, but me, yeah, I've obviously accumulated different styles over the years of like training, and also I guess that's come out in my pro wrestling too. Um,
It's still there.
yeah, it keeps on cutting out.
Yeah, no worries. Carry on. It's fine.
Yeah, so I've obviously accumulated different styles from different locations I've been in and stayed in, and definitely in training that comes out. I also like to bring what I learn in Japan to our Western countries too, to just kind of have that influence where I can really.
The obvious. I'm not going to pretend like I'm an expert on Japan. So, do you know specifically women's wrestling? How is it seen in Japan by obviously the Japan people?
So professional wrestling is very famous in Japan naturally anyway. It's seen as, one of the biggest sports in the country. And women's wrestling, Joshi Perozu. is what it's called. So women's wrestling in Japan is equally as important, and the Japanese public, they just love the sport of professional wrestling. They're very passionate, very dedicated, and just so encouraging. Um, every time you see them, and they've just got a real passion for the sport. And it's the same with the women's wrestling and the men's wrestling in the mixed. I'd say it's equally as popular. And as athletes, we're definitely sorry, admired by the Japanese public. Yeah, it's lovely, really. It's wonderful to be taken incredibly serious, as a sport.
I'm glad to hear that because for some reason I had this perception that they wouldn't be very receptive to it because a lot of times they get portrayed as very traditional people. But,
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't speak on behalf of them 100%, like I guess the non-wrestling fans, but on every single encounter I've had over there, with a wrestling fan or a non-wrestling fan, they've just been delighted. And I guess because it's a fun night out, or it's just pleasing and amusing and just exciting for people to watch anyway. So I guess it's just loved over there from what I see. But obviously I'm a wrestler, so I couldn't tell you what it would be like for on the other side.
I would imagine it's very similar to obviously England and America
Yeah,
where you
yeah.
obviously have some people that love it and some people that don't
Mhm.
really care for it.
Yeah, yeah, of course, naturally, and that's okay too.
Yeah, of course. Do you know the word Joshi? Where did it actually come from? Is there a story behind the word
Um,
Joshi?
so Josie, just means woman in Japanese. So it's specifically used to describe a form of well, it's girls, but obviously in Japan the term Porezu is pro wrestling in Japanese. So they use Joshi Porezu as girls pro wrestling, basically.
Uh, as you can tell, as you can tell, I, I'm not good at pronouncing Japanese phrases, so my apologies if it sounds like a
It's
stupid
okay.
question. So, have you, so obviously you've said you got trained in lucha libre a little bit. So
Yeah, 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 yeah.
have you ever been to have you ever been to Mexico properly, or you just learnt the style?
So I started off at the London School of Lucha Libre, and obviously I learnt some Lucha Libre there, which was incredible. And I was due to go over to Mexico when I became the CMLL Reigner Joint Champion in Tokyo, Japan. I was supposed to go over to Mexico to defend my title, but we were unable to sort that out at the time due to I can't remember the reason, but this was a couple of years back, so I'm actually yet to go to Mexico. So out of all 14 countries I've been to, I know it's very shocking to people, but yeah, I'm yet to go there, so I can't wait for the opportunity to go there. I look forward to it.
But with all due respect for somebody that's well travelled, why why aren't you a bigger name like in like the way like like in America, like you have certain people that are really big even though they're not technically signed to the big companies. So I've always wondered, why do you think you're not as big as some
That's a funny question. Well, I couldn't really speak on behalf of that, but I guess I've spent quite a lot of time in Japan, so perhaps that's why. Well, quite, I guess a lot of people would be familiar with my work in Japan, so I guess I only just recently left last year, so I spent most of my career there, so I guess uh, I kind of left to kind of do the same thing that I did there, but in the rest of the world. I'm about to debut on TV soon, so I guess maybe people that are not familiar with me might become more familiar with me once they kind of see me on TV. Perhaps I'm not really sure. Hopefully that's answered your question.
Because even though, so, cause even though, because basically, sometimes you can, you can hear about people even though they're in like Japan and that, obviously with the internet. But up until recently, I didn't hear a lot about you.
Okay. That's so funny. Okay. Well, now you know me.
By the way, by the way, I, I, I hope you don't think I'm trying to be a dick. But I do like to be honest with people.
I would leave that statement out in the future, but no hard feelings.
Is that, is that, is that, are you any good with chopsticks or not really?
Yeah. I'm actually a master at chopsticks. I actually was eating. Sometimes I would make everybody kind of like giggle and eat my ice cream with chopsticks, or eat silly things with chopsticks for no reason, just because I find it quite fun eating with chopsticks. I actually still eat with chopsticks quite a lot of the time outside of Japan, because sometimes you get used to it and it's just easier to grab the food.
I am, I imagine when you get used to it, it's like just using like a normal spoon and fork really, once you get used to it of course.
Yeah.
It's, it's obviously I would say you're quite a tall woman. You're quite a tall woman. Do you, do you think sometimes? Do you think that's sometimes that can be your appeal?
Sorry, that could be my appeal, did you say?
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Cause sometimes, I mean, sometimes having somebody that stands out because of their height can really help their
Well, I would say I'm not massively overly tall. I'm just tall, I guess. I'm 5'9" and a half, so about 177, I think, or 176 centimeters. So I'm tall for a woman, I guess people might think, but I'm not like ridiculously tall. A lot of people think before they meet me, they think I'm like 6'2", and I think that's incredible. So I'll just pretend that I am, but I guess a lot of people say to me it's my presence that they think is large. I'm not sure. Maybe it's how I hold myself. But I think from my modelling days, I have quite a prominent like posture. So I guess that's why I kind of always look ridiculously larger than life. I guess because I always kind of have great posture. I think posture is very important, actually.
Of course, that's not a bad thing. Cause you obviously want to stand out, don't you? You don't want to blend into the crowd too much.
Well, I stand out, either way because I was born this way, and I was larger and bigger, I guess, than other girls, and I find that a blessing, really, So I'm quite thankful because, I guess a lot of people, sometimes you get comments. I guess other people might say, oh, she's tall, oh, she's big. But I think whatever you have, whatever you look like, you should love who you are, and you should make it work and just accept yourself because that's who you are and that's how you're meant to be. So I think you should embrace it.
I, I personally, find it quite. I don't want it. I find it quite. I don't want to say cool, but I do like the fact when people do stand out and the people are quite tall because obviously it helps them to like it helps them to get noticed in a way, if you know what I mean.
Well, yes and no. I don't think that's entirely the only way to get noticed, but Just in terms of physicality, you're more noticeable. You know, like for example, if a shorter person was walking in the room or a taller person walked into the room, you know, people kind of think, oh, because they kind of get that shock factor. You know, with people that are taller, I guess. So I do understand what you mean. Also, you know, when you see like sports players, like for example, I'd always, where I lived in Sendai in Japan, I would always see loads of really tall volleyball girls because there was a big volleyball tournament all the time in Sendai, and I'd see these girls and they were like 6'3", and I was like, wow, you know, I feel short in comparison. You know, it's just fascinating, really, isn't it?
Of, of course, some, uh, oh, but it can also help you to be short, like sometimes being ath, being ath, well not even sometimes, like being athletic can also be help you to stand out if you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
it,
Also, you know, it doesn't matter what height you are. You're an athlete. You're an athlete. You know, I'm a firm believer in that. 100%.
yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Thank you for putting it like that. 'Cause that's what I'm trying to say, but I'm just not delivering it properly.
Yeah, you're fine.
So you know where is Sentai? Or,
Sendai is a northern Japan, so just it's it's in a prefecture called Miyagi Ken, and it's just quite close to I guess I don't know if you would know it really. It's about 6 hours drive from Tokyo, so it's North Japan. So things are a little bit more traditional up in Sendai, you know, which I like as well. I love all types of different areas in Japan. Every single area, every single prefecture is different. I think it's incredible, really, isn't it? Think about it.
yeah, I as you can probably tell, I've never been to Japan, so I'm quite fascinated with with the whole country, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I've got stories for absolute days with that place. It's just a lot of people ask me about Japan, and I'm never short of a story. It's just a beautiful, beautiful place, really.
If you ever write an autobiography, you'll have to put them in there.
Of course.
Would you like? Obviously, hopefully it's a couple of years. It's way down the line. But would you like to write an autobiography at some point?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'd be silly not to, really. All the things that my eyes have seen so far on this journey, on this, I call it when I try and explain it to people, my outside of wrestling friends. I say, oh, this is like a roller coaster, you know. And at the moment, I'm on the roller coaster riding it, and I'm loving every minute, and I'm just so thankful and grateful. So and I've just got so much more of the ride left. It's just that's how I basically see it. So eventually, yeah, it'd be silly not to write something, a little something, just to kind of celebrate what I've seen and what I've accomplished and all the things that I'm yet to accomplish. You know?
Yeah, I, obviously it might sound a bit of that easy question, but how did you decide to come out with the Union Jack? Because obviously, obviously that you are from England, so I assume that was the only reason behind it.
Yeah. So my first booking outside of England, subconsciously, I just always had this regal kind of patriotic vision of coming out with my flag of my country. I think it actually originated from tournaments I used to watch, where it was always England or, you know, for example, Japan, and loads of you know, Olympics that I watched, and loads of tournaments, combat tournaments, the World Cup. So from the get go, it was always very important for me to come out with my flag of that country. And also, I actually have a flag of my county. So I'm from Essex. So I actually have a flag of the Three Swords of Essex that I also come out with sometimes. I've got an England flag, a Union Jack, and the Essex Swords of Essex flag. So I like to represent my hometown because most of the time I'm never really in England. So I like to remember my roots and show my support for my country, and also my friends and family, that obviously they like seeing that too. It's just, there's a whole bunch of different reasons, but for the most part, I like to come out of my flag when I'm doing like foreign matches.
For, for somebody that's not in England very much, you certainly keep your English accent.
Oh yeah,
I thought it would at least loosened.
yeah. I mean, I definitely have some different terms that I come out with. Also, what's quite funny, if you ever meet me in person, people tell me this all the time, that I've got like built-in Japanese gestures that I do, which I don't even realise I do. So that's quite funny. But yeah, I definitely haven't lost my Essex accent, that's for sure.
Was that? Do you think subconsciously that was a purpose thing? That was a purpose. That was on purpose, or do you think that was just naturally stick with you?
What, my accent?
Like, do you think subconsciously you've told yourself, I'm gonna keep my accent, so that's why it's still there, or do you think it's just a
No,
case
not at
of,
all. Mm-mm. Not at all. I don't even give it a second thought. It's just ingrained into who I am. So I guess I can't really beat it. I do think I sound incredibly posh when I'm in America and I speak over there. But then I come back here and I feel like I sound really common, and it's quite funny actually.
is it, is it kind of something like when you go back to your hometown, do they think you sound different, or
No,
not really?
no, no. In fact, I think my accent's probably regained its strength since I've been back home. So I don't know if anyone's going to understand me going forward, but
I, it makes it really difficult sometimes when you're trying to put them back together, and especially in America, for example, can you you must say little isms, and then people must think, what the hell are you going on about?
yeah, there's obviously different slangs in different countries, which is quite funny. I found I like teaching my American friends always laugh because they always want me to tell them loads of English words, and then it's just quite funny because they also really like when I say cheeky, and they just think that's just hilarious.
From, from my personal experience, when you try and teach people some British words, a lot of the time they use them in the wrong context.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I've realised that too, actually.
So, what's the biggest crowd that you've ever worked in front of?
I'd say when I headlined Korakuen Hall in Tokyo, Japan. Korakuen Hall fills out quite a lot.
It's about 80. It's about it's about 18,000, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a big crowd at Korakuen Hall actually. Yeah, not sure how many there was in, but I know there was a lot. I'd say so. Yeah, that's the big facility wise.
You know, we were talking about earlier about different style of wrestlers and different sizes. Yeah, have you ever worked with I, I can never say her name properly, but Rio.
Yeah, the Japanese wrestler Rio.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll probably say the name wrong, but you know who I'm on about, so that's,
I think you mean, yeah, no, you're almost there. It's Riho, I believe.
yeah.
Yeah, Riho. I worked, yeah, I've worked with her a whole bunch of times in Japan. Everybody kind of just crosses each other's paths, the Joshis over there. You know, we always end up wrestling each other on the circuit. It's great, really.
That, do you know when you do go over to Japan, is it like for a tour, or, or is it like, or is it like living there basically?
Well, I actually, the first time I got invited there, I was on a 3 month tour, and then I basically, I guess, I'd done so well there, I got offered to stay, and then obviously I moved through different companies, and it was just a no-brainer for me. When the option it came up that can you stay longer, I was like, 100 billion% I can stay longer, however long I can be here, yeah. And then somehow 3 months turned into almost 4 years, yeah, 4 years it was. So I'm obviously going to eventually go back there and probably stay again because I just think it's a wonderful place, really. But sometimes it's good to get out and see the rest of the world and then, come back as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I would imagine that at some point you'll probably stay in Mexico for a couple of months and do
Yeah,
it like that.
totally. I would love to do that. That's kind of my style usually, like whenever I get invited over to places, I kind of just get a flavour for the area, learn what I can, and then keep it moving, really.
I you must be a very likable person, because otherwise they wouldn't have you back so many times, would they really?
I try to make everybody happy and I try to do my job the best I can do. So, yeah, hopefully.
So, what what are you, what are your what are your main goals in the future, like career wise or personally, if you want to go
Well,
into it?
well, I'm already touch wood. I'm very lucky and privileged and happy and determined and grateful that I'm already doing what I love all the time. So my dream just gets bigger and bigger, and I've always got like I always set the bar really high for myself. I just want to continue doing what I'm doing and just become the best I can be at my profession, really.
I, I completely respect that. I think everybody can take something away from that. To be honest,
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to stay hungry, and I'm very hungry. I've always been hungry for the game, for the fight, and I always keep on running, and I always make sure how can I improve myself today? How can I be the best version of myself? What do I have to do to be the best? And it's just a competition between Heidi versus Heidi all the time. So that's basically where I am with that.
yeah, I'm sure COVID has helped you, like getting work, because obviously nobody could go anywhere.
Well, actually, to be quite honest with you, just before the virus, I actually had a very big injury, which kind of eventually I had to kind of step back from the ring for, you know, it was half a year actually, 6 months I was out for it. So I'm not saying the timing was perfect because it wasn't perfect. It's never okay to get injured, but I was already injured from an injury, obviously. So when the virus come along, I wasn't able to do my job anyway. Uh, so it didn't really affect me too much really, and I was still doing what I love doing outside of the game.
Sorry.
You know.
What did you get injured, if you don't mind me asking?
No, not at all. I had two broken bones in my foot. One was going horizontally through the other one.
That sounds really pleasant. Obviously, sarcasm. Obviously.
Yeah, I actually didn't know how badly it was for 2 months after the injury, which is terrible, I've got to say. But with me, I just get injured or something happens, and I just continue. I've still got to go to work the next day, so I wrap it up, and I was still wrestling with two broken bones in my foot without realizing. It was only until I 2 hours before a TV appearance. Bless him. His name's Chad Miller of OVW. He told me, listen, we've got to go and get an X-ray. Like, what are you doing? You can't walk. Like, come on. And then I was just like, whoa, okay, maybe I can't wrestle at the minute, and it took someone forcing me to go to the hospital for me to slow down, basically.
I admire that, but at the same time, I do find that quite silly because you probably aggravate you. Obviously, like you made it 10 times worse, probably.
Yeah, definitely, but that's just me, something happens, you take care of it and you carry on.
But to be fair, I think a lot of people, obviously, a lot of people are going to be like that in this industry, so
Yeah,
it's
no, I
nothing
feel
new.
quite bad for it, really. I mean, it's a good thing and it's not so good. But I guess it's hard for people to kind of relate to that because they're like, yeah, but it's your body. I'm like, yeah, but it's my job. I've got to, for example, one of my fingers like dislocated or broke one time, I can't remember. And I just gaffer taped it up and just went and wrestled the next day. Probably shouldn't have, but I think it's that mentality of, just fight or flight. You've got to survive. You've got to keep on running.
And I imagine sometimes the atmosphere of the crowd can get you through the pain
Oh
barrier.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Just adrenaline and the sheer fact of the whole event, the adrenaline, the excitement, the nervousness, like the thrill of it, basically. Somehow gets you through any kind of pain, and then you feel the pain later on. You're like, oh, okay. When you come down to earth, you're like, oh, okay, that kind of hurts.
So
Yeah.
so you
One
met.
break my finger. But yeah, it's all good. I don't mind. I'm pretty tough, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Well, you
yeah, go on.
you're tougher than I would be. I'm the I'm a big wuss when it comes to,
Oh, really?
when it well, to be honest, I'm not a wuss, but in comparison to you, I probably would be a wuss.
Well, I've been called a robot a few times. I don't know why. People just like, the doctor was like, don't you feel any pain? Are you a robot? I'm like, I guess so.
So earlier on, you mentioned that you worked with a couple. You mentioned that you worked with some legends. So who have you worked with that people might know?
I wrestled Jazz. Do you remember Jazz?
Yeah, yeah, of course. I remember.
Ah, she was awesome. Me and her. This was just one of the greatest experiences. So we headlined Crocken Hall in Tokyo, Japan, and we had a NWA versus CML Reina championship bout, and it was like, I'm very particular about the flags. We obviously came out with our flags and our anthems, the English anthem and then the American anthem. It was awesome. Goosebumps, and everybody in the arena was like, oh wow. I think it's important when you do like old school stuff like that, champion versus champion, and it's just very traditional to come out, with your flags and your anthems. I think that's a very traditional wrestling style. We also done that when I was in Germany, which was fun too. So yeah, Jazz was incredible to wrestle.
How long ago was this? Because I was just wondering, was that before she came to it? And
Yeah, it was. Oh gosh, when was it? Possibly 2017. Jazz is still wrestling now. She's a lovely woman as well, honestly. Really, really lovely. She's still wrestling. I
yeah,
believe it was 2017. I honestly can't remember. All the time in Japan, it just went so fast and it was so non-stop. So I'll
to be,
keep it all back together maybe when I go back there.
yeah. To be honest, I really like her look nowadays with the
Okay.
bald head. I think it really makes her look really cool.
Oh, she is cool. She's tough. And whenever I used to see her, I used to think, wow, that's a tough looking girl. I love that. I love strong looking women. I love powerful women. I think I love that.
To be honest,
And I what I strive to look as well. Like strong and powerful. You know.
To be honest with you, yeah, back in the day, I didn't really get Jazz right. I didn't understand why she was so highly rated. Obviously, nowadays I understand why she's highly rated,
Mm.
but back in the day, I didn't understand really
I
why
think
she was highly rated.
she just a lot of wrestlers admire her. She's just a very powerful force in wrestling.
Do you think she gets the credit that she deserves? Because I don't think she does, but maybe you think different.
I think the same. Yeah, I think she deserves a lot more credit for what she's done as well. You know, but whenever I see, I guess my peers that are just incredible athletes, I just always think, oh wow, I want them to be admired, and appreciated, and it was nice to see that when Jazz was over in Japan, people were very excited about her presence, and they were very admirable of what she's accomplished. And I think that's very important as an athlete.
Yeah, I would completely agree. Unfortunately, I think Jazz came in at the wrong time, to be honest. I think
Yeah.
if she came through nowadays, people would love her.
Oh, she's people love her now anyway. They still love her. They've always loved her.
Like, yeah, that's basically what I'm trying to say, yeah. My apologies if that came across wrong.
No, you're fine.
So a couple more questions, and I'll let you go because it is quite late and I am
It
a...
is. Yeah, I'm very tired. I've had a very long day.
So, my penultimate question is, who's your best friends in the industry? Or that you have?
I wouldn't say I'm friends with a lot of people in wrestling. I don't particularly have one person who's like my best friend, but I guess I admire all my colleagues and all my friends in wrestling. I've met loads of people. I couldn't pinpoint one person. I've got mates in Japan, mates in America, mates in England, you know. But I'd say I've got most of my very close friends generally are not involved in wrestling because I like to keep everything separate. Sometimes, you're living in two worlds at the same time. So it's good to have that escape.
But I can imagine that sometimes you can strike up a really good relationship with somebody, and then sometimes that can obviously result in you becoming really close. So who are you really close to?
There's loads of great girls and guys out there in wrestling, and then everybody becomes your friend at some point because you're always on the road with them.
Yeah, actually that makes more sense. Yeah,
Totally. Your colleagues, but your family and your friends as well. Like you're saving each other's lives out there.
yeah. In a weird way, it's sort of like a college fraternity, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but obviously with your competition, you're gonna fight to win. But when you're in the same company and stuff, you always end up kind of being like a brotherhood type thing. Sisterhood, brotherhood, that kind of mentality. And I love that about professional wrestling, and I love that with any sports. That's why when I did athletics in school, we would always do like different things, and I was like the captain, and I was very like, yes, this team, we're all gonna win, guys, and let's all stick together. I think I like that. I think that's very important.
So my final question is, did I did I somebody like how Snow came to you? Because obviously I believe it's still the owner of OP, I can never say it, OPW.
Did you ask how did he come to me?
What we're gonna say? No, I didn't actually say anything yet. What I was gonna say was, do you know if you gave you the opportunity to work with anybody, dead or alive, who would you pick?
you be able to repeat the question? I just want to make sure that I'm hearing it right.
I said, if Al Snow came to you and said, you can work with anybody tonight
Oh,
from the past or from the future, you know what I mean, like from the present or from the past.
did you say? Sorry, did you say alive or I guess
But
not alive as well? Is that an option?
basically, I said, if you could pick one opponent from, from any era, who would you pick?
From any era? Oh gosh, there's loads. I mean, a whole bunch of names come to mind, especially back in the day. But if I could, there's one particular name that always comes to mind because she was the first woman that I saw on TV. And when I saw her, I was like, wow, I've got to do this. And I wish if I had that opportunity, if we could bring her back, I would definitely wrestle China. Because she was the first woman that I saw on TV, Anthony. She's what made me kind of think, wow, women can be strong and big and they can wrestle too? Hell yeah. So, yeah, definitely.
I really like that. I really like that answer because I think now I think nowadays a lot of these fans don't give her the respect that she deserves. Obviously for other reasons, which we will not.
Yeah, of course, yeah, but people's personal lives, you know, you got to separate the two in wrestling. I mean, obviously to some degree, if they're a horrible person, then completely no. But yeah, she she's a very big, important female figure for a lot of female wrestlers. You know, they initially saw her, and she was like the intercontinental champion. And I remember her just picking up this guy one time when I was a child. I saw it, I was like, what? She just threw him over her head and then put the championship belt on and then walked off. And I was like, that's a bad, bad girl. Who is that? You know, and seeing that, it makes other girls like strive to be powerful and strong and stand up for themselves, you know.
I believe she was the first female to at least challenge for the world
Oh, yeah.
championship.
She's actually one of only, I think, one or two females that's ever wrestled in the Tokyo Dome for New Japan. So, or something like that. Someone told me these statistics one time. Yeah, so it's just incredible, really.
Yeah, as I say, people hate on people nowadays for absolutely
Yeah.
wrong reasons.
They do. But yeah, you've got to remember those who inspired you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a lot of people have the mentality of kick people when they're down nowadays.
Oh, totally.
I don't
Yeah.
know why people enjoy that mentality, but they do. So
Maybe it makes them feel a bit better about themselves, which I think is completely corrupt and wrong.
I just think if it makes your life feel better, then go right ahead. But I don't want to be a part of it. That's my stance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, thank you for coming on.
Pleasure, honestly. Thank you for having me, Anthony. It's been a wonderful, wonderful time. Thank you for having me.
It's no worries. I'm glad we could. I'm glad I could finally get you on because we've been trying to do this for a good week or so, and unfortunately we've never got round to it. So hopefully I wasn't too dorky.
Yeah, no, it was lovely. I don't know what's going on if it's like podcast week, but I've actually had this is the fourth podcast I've done, and it's only Tuesday, so I'm not sure everyone wants to interview me this week. But it's been such a pleasure, Anthony. Thank you for having me.
No, no worries. And to be honest, I was actually quite nervous for this one because obviously I'm not an expert on your career, so I was a bit concerned that I'm gonna say something stupid and really make myself look dumb, so to speak. But no, that was actually quite good because we actually spoke about a little bit of the normal life in Japan. So yeah, it's quite good. Do you want to do you want to promote your social medias?
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram at Heidi Katrina with two A's at the end. And my Twitter handle is the same at Heidi Katrina with two A's on the end. And yeah, my Facebook, Heidi Katrina, and I'm sure if you Google my name, you'll find it on some sort of video online footage if you guys want to catch my match out. Yeah, thanks for having me again, Anthony. It's been a pleasure.
No worries. So, thank you for watching, guys. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and speak to you later.
Yeah, speak to you later.